right? We need balance, and the only way things will change is if we take a real honest look at the scripts that have been...
The story that has taken shape around the filming of It End With Us is one that seems almost designed for a Hollywood legend. The kind of story that spreads not because it's confirmed or universally believed, but because it contains every ingredient people instinctively crave in celebrity gossip. A celebrated actress at the height of her fame, a charismatic actor known for balancing his good looks with his reputation for thoughtfulness, a movie adaptation carrying immense fan expectations, an undercurrent of intimacy both on-screen and off, and a suggestion that blurred boundaries between performance and reality created sparks that could not easily be contained. It begins with whispers at Blake Lively, a woman whose image is so carefully managed that every red carpet pose and Instagram caption seems deliberate, allegedly found herself genuinely taken with her co-star Justin Baldoni during production. This was not just a fleeting rumor about two actors sharing chemistry on camera, but a suggestion that the actress's feelings crossed over into real life in ways that may have ignited one of Hollywood's strangest recent controversies. The premise, on its face, sounds almost absurd. Blake is married to Ryan Reynolds, their relationship framed by the public as not only stable but enviably playful, their family life often highlighted in interviews and social media posts that project joy, wit, and togetherness. Justin, meanwhile, is seen as the antithesis of scandal, an actor who uses his platform to promote positivity, self-awareness, and conversations about masculinity that challenge stereotypes. The idea that these two will be caught in the middle of a storm about attraction, rejection, and professional fallout strains credulity. And yet the very implausibility is part of what keeps people talking. Gossip thrives on contradiction, on stories that feel both impossible and somehow irresistibly possible. As the theory has been retold, reshaped, and reanalyzed online, it takes the form of a narrative in which Blake, while immersing herself in the role of Lily Bloom, a woman entangled in a relationship oscillating between passion and violence, began to lose the boundaries between character and self. The chemistry demanded by the script was already intense, asking the leads to navigate moments of tenderness and brutality in ways that would feel authentic to audiences, but also deeply uncomfortable for performers. Justin, by his own admission in past interviews, often approached such scenes by stepping back, letting his female co-stars guide the process, recognizing that intimacy filmed through a male gaze can risk exploitation. His emphasis on collaboration, particularly with women behind the scenes, was well documented, and he often described himself as both director and participant, careful not to dominate but still fully present as an actor. For fans of The Rumor, this environment became the fertile ground for speculation. If Blake was already emotionally raw, navigating both the pressures of the project and her personal life as a mother returned to work shortly after the birth of her fourth child, might she have been unusually susceptible to projecting desire or need onto her co-star? Supporters of the theory point to Blake's history, or at least a history that tabloids have assigned to her. She famously dated Penn Badgley during the early years of Gossip Girl, a show that traded heavily on their chemistry. Later, during the filming of Green Lantern, she was linked to Ryan Reynolds, the relationship that became her marriage and the centerpiece of her public persona. Both examples reinforce the narrative that she is someone whose romantic life has overlapped with her professional collaborations. That does not mean that such overlaps always occur, nor that they're inevitable, but offers just enough precedent for people eager to believe the latest whisper. In gossip, patterns are often created retroactively, moments of a person's past reframed as evidence of a larger behavioral truth, whether or not such a truth exists. If Blake indeed felt a pull toward Justin, the rumor continues. She did not disguise it entirely. Subtle signals, interpreted by insiders as flirtation, were allegedly present on set. The extra laugh, the lingering glance, the energy that goes beyond professionalism into something warmer, more tentative, but also riskier. And yet Justin, far from being drawn into the game, reportedly resisted. His focus remained on the project, on maintaining professionalism, on ensuring that the intimacy portrayed on screen was safe and respectful rather than confused with real desire. In this telling, rejection became the catalyst for chaos. Instead of blossoming into a discreet affair or a mutually acknowledged attraction, it hardened into embarrassment and frustration for Blake, who then allegedly redirected her narrative, reframing unrequited longing as professional misconduct, and setting in motion the lawsuit-heavy conflict that now surrounds a film. Of course, such a claim is slippery. It assumes intentions that cannot be proven, emotions that cannot be measured, and private dynamics that few, if any, outside production could credibly confirm. And yet, that uncertainty is precisely why the theory thrives. Fans, journalists, and casual observers alike pore over every piece of footage from press tours, every interview clip, every awkward pause or forced smile, looking for evidence that the chemistry was more than just acting, that the discomfort was more than just method. One viral video of Blake describing the fireworks she felt while working on the story became fuel for speculation. Was she speaking about creative inspiration, or was fireworks code for something more personal, a slip of language that revealed private longing? Her phrasing was ambiguous enough to invite interpretation, and once interpretation begins, it rarely stops. The gossip mill also delights in timing. Blake's decision to take on such an emotionally heavy role not long after giving birth invited commentary about vulnerability, about the blurred lines between hormones, exhaustion, and immersion into a character living through cycles of love and abuse. Could her postpartum emotional state have intensified her connection to the story, and by extension to her co-star? Such speculation edges into uncomfortable territory, reducing a woman's complexity to her biology. And yet it persists because it fits the larger narrative structure of instability, attraction, rejection, and consequence. As the rumor snowballed, some fans began to weave in broader Hollywood patterns. They pointed to the industry's long history of on-set romances turning into real-life partnerships. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson in Twilight, Jennifer Lawrence and Darren Aronofsky during Mother. Each example reinforced the idea that the boundary between performance and reality is porous, that actors are uniquely prone to confusing character with self, that method acting and emotional immersion create environments where feelings can grow uncontrollably. Whether or not Blake and Justin ever cross that line, the cultural script insists that they can have, and that insistence is enough to keep the story alive. The alleged fallout, lawsuits, public disputes, whispered feuds, becomes a dramatic third act in this rumor structure. What began as attraction turned to rejection, and what turned to rejection allegedly evolved into retaliation. To believe this is to believe that one of Hollywood's most polished women, aware of her image and careful in her choices, would risk everything because of feelings left unreturned. It is also to believe that Justin, committed to his reputation as a positive force, would find himself unwillingly cast as both the object of desire and the scapegoat for a narrative spiraling out of control. For some, this is too much to accept. For others, it is too delicious not to. The fascination lies not in whether the rumor is true, but in how perfectly it fits into existing templates. It mirrors the structure of soap opera, the forbidden attraction, the refusal, the fallout, the betrayal. It resonates with the audience because it feels like a story they already know, repackaged with familiar faces. And the very implausibility that Blake would jeopardize her marriage, that Justin would remain so unscathed, becomes part of its allure. Gossip requires a balance between believability and fantasy. Too plausible and it becomes boring, too impossible and it collapses under its own weight. This rumor walks the line, drawing people in precisely because it feels like it could almost be true, even if every rational instinct says otherwise. As the discourse unfolds, the lines between performance, rumor, and reality blur further. Every interview with Justin about the challenges of filming is retroactively scrutinized. His comment about intimacy reframed as evidence of boundaries that Blake might have resented. Every affectionate family post from Blake and Ryan is analyzed as potential overcompensation, an attempt to smother the flames of scandal with curated images of domestic bliss. Fans turn into amateur detectives, building timelines, dissecting body language, and assigning motives. The original story is almost beside the point now. What matters is a performance of speculation, the endless conversation that sustains a rumor even in the absence of new evidence. In this sense, the Blake-Justin rumor is less about the two individuals and more about Hollywood itself, about the way stories are constructed, consumed, and recycled. It reveals a hunger for narratives of downfall, the obsession with romance as both fantasy and scandal, and a constant interplay between public persona and private life. Whether or not anything happened between them, the rumor accomplishes what all gossip aims to do: It destabilizes certainty, invites participation, and transforms ordinary fans into co-authors of a drama that exists only in the collective imagination. The mythology forming around production of It Ends With Us is unlike any other recent Hollywood rumor, a swirling narrative that manages to combine romance, rejection, professional politics, and cultural fascination into one sprawling saga. It begins, at least in the public imagination, with Blake Lively, a woman celebrated as both a performer and a style icon, stepping into one of the most challenging roles of her career. By the time she agreed to play Lily Bloom in the adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel, she was already carrying the weight of expectation from a massive fan base that had spent years imagining how their beloved story would look on screen. Add to that the reality that she had only recently given birth to her fourth child, and the circumstances were set for a volatile mix of vulnerability, intensity, and pressure. Into this atmosphere walked Justin Baldoni, co-star and director, bringing with him a reputation for method-like commitment and for championing female voices in the creative process. Together, they would become the center of a rumor mill that spiraled into one of the strangest alleged love triangles never quite confirmed in Hollywood history. The core theory insists that Blake caught feeling for Justin during filming. To those who repeat it most loudly, the suggestion is not just idle chatter, but a plausible outcome of circumstances. Blake, they argue, has a history of letting on-screen chemistry bleed into real life. She famously dated Penn Badgley during their Gossip Girl years, a relationship that blurred the line between fiction and reality because their characters, Serena and Dan, were entangled in the same way. Later, while filming Green Lantern, sparks reportedly flew between her and Ryan Reynolds, who was at that time still married to Scarlett Johansson. That relationship ended in divorce for him, and in a new marriage for both, one that has since been curated into Hollywood's favorite witty power couple. Even whispers around Ben Affleck's The Town have resurfaced, with some tabloids hinting that Blake and Affleck shared emotional closeness at a time when both were entangled with other partners. Each of these stories is treated as a data point, a precedent that makes the Baldoni rumor seem less shocking. 3 for 3 in the romance on set department, as one gossip account quipped. So, why not make just an attempt number 4? But timing mattered, too. When Blake signed on for It Ends With Us, she wasn't only stepping into a fan-beloved character, she was stepping into an emotionally heavy story about love, abuse, resilience, and heartbreak. Some fans have speculated that postpartum hormones combined with the hyper-romantic storyline created what they called a perfect storm for a slow-burn crush. To put it bluntly, the idea is that Blake, in a moment of transition and emotional intensity, projected some of her character's desires onto her co-star. This is not a claim that can be measured or proven, of course. It borders on pseudopsychology, but gossip rarely concerns itself with precision. Instead, it thrives on plausibility, on the suggestion that something makes sense, even if only narratively. Meanwhile, Justin was reportedly locked into his own headspace. Known for his thoughtful approach to acting, he often described himself as stepping back in intimacy scenes, letting women on set shape the choreography so that safety and authenticity could coexist. He even brought on Lauren Shaw, a female stunt coordinator, to ensure that scenes balancing romance and violence were staged in a way that protected everyone involved. By his own account, he preferred to view himself as an actor first in those moments, not just a director, meaning that his focus was split between inhabiting the character and making sure his co-stars were comfortable. For conspiracy theorists, this meant that Justin was either oblivious to or purposely ignoring any signals Blake might have sent. If she was, as the rumor suggests, testing the waters to see if he would reciprocate, his lack of response could easily have been read as rejection. And rejection, in the Hollywood imagination, is rarely left as a private matter. It becomes a seed for an avalanche. Those who dismiss the rumor entirely point to Blake's professionalism. She has been in the industry long enough to understand the difference between performance and reality. She is also a mother of 4 and married to Ryan Reynolds, with whom she shares one of Hollywood's most carefully protected family brands. The idea that she would risk her image and her marriage for a fleeting crush on a co-star strikes many as laughable. But scandal chasers push back with evidence. One of the most cited moments is an Instagram interaction from about 100 weeks ago, where Justin posted a sweaty workout picture. Blake left a comment, "Amazing. Now try pregnant." To most, it read like playful banter, the kind of cheeky remark a married woman known for her wit might toss off without thinking. But to those already inclined to believe the rumor, it became a holy smokes moment, a subtle way of signaling flirtation under the guise of humor. Conspiracy lovers went further. They framed the comment as a gentle nudge, a way of saying, "I like what I see," without crossing a line. On its own, such an interpretation seems like overreach, but placed in the larger tapestry of speculation, it becomes another thread. When you weave together her romantic history with co-stars, her timing post-childbirth, the intensity of the role, and Justin's reputation for inspiring admiration from women around him, the Instagram comment shifts from silly to suspicious in the minds of gossip-hungry fans. From there, the story takes an even stranger turn, Ryan Reynolds allegedly stepping in. According to one angle of the rumor, Ryan knew exactly how Blake operates when it comes to co-stars and became protective once he sensed Justin wasn't reciprocating. This is where the story blurs further into soap opera territory. Supposedly, Justin made an offhand remark about Blake's weight while rehearsing a lift scene, suggesting she was too heavy for a particular stunt. Whether such a comment ever happened is impossible to confirm, but gossip blogs seize on it as the moment everything exploded. To them, it wasn't just a careless remark. It was fat shaming, a direct insult to a woman still adjusting to her body after pregnancy. Ryan's reaction, according to theory, was immediate and furious. He allegedly confronted Justin, setting in motion a feud that spilled out of the private into the public. The escalation didn't stop there. In the rumor's most bizarre subplot, Ryan supposedly snuck a jab at Justin into a Deadpool cameo, creating a character that mocked him in a thinly veiled way. This detail is almost certainly fiction, the kind of embellishment gossip writers add because it makes the story more entertaining. But its popularity online reveals something important. Fans don't just want to believe it was tension. They want the tension dramatized, immortalized in art, turned into a piece of pop culture theater. In this telling, Ryan is not just a protective husband, but a witty avenger, using his franchise to humiliate the man who dared to hurt his wife. It's petty, it's cartoonish, and it's exactly the kind of narrative flourish that keeps people hooked. Meanwhile, defenders of Justin point out that he has long been a vocal advocate for respect on set. He published a book about rethinking masculinity, gave TED Talks about vulnerability, and built a career on being the antithesis of the stereotypical Hollywood cad. The idea that he would fat-shame a co-star runs counter to his entire persona. But gossip is not about consistency. It's about contradiction. In fact, the more his reputation seems incompatible with the rumor, the more fuel it provides. Fans love the idea of hidden hypocrisy, of the seemingly perfect man showing cracks. Just as Blake's curated family image makes her an irresistible target for scandal, Justin's reputation for kindness makes him a ripe candidate for exposure. As the narrative grows more tangled, the lawsuit looms in the background. Officially, the conflict between Blake and Justin centers on creative disagreements, contracts, and accusations of misconduct. Unofficially, in the gossip sphere, it all boils down to the alleged crush. To believe the rumor is to believe that Blake, embarrassed by rejection and cornered by tension, reframed her narrative as victimization. Instead of admitting to unrequited feelings, she allegedly shifted blame, ensuring that Justin became the problem, not her. To skeptics, this version is not just harsh but cruel. It paints her as manipulative, willing to weaponize serious accusations to cover personal embarrassment. And yet, it also reflects the messy cocktail that makes gossip thrive. Love, rejection, humiliation, retaliation, and public fallout. At its heart, the Blake-Justin rumor is not about truth, but about resonance. It resonates because it mirrors the structure of so many stories people already know. It feels like a soap opera because it follows soap opera beats. It feels like Hollywood history because it echoes past scandals. Co-stars falling in love, marriages strained, projects overshadowed by personal drama. Fans dissect every look during press tours, every shift in tone during interviews, every carefully worded statement, convinced they can find the truth hidden in plain sight. Whether that truth exists is almost beside the point. What matters is a performance of speculation, the shared thrill of piecing together a story from fragments, the communal act of believing or disbelieving. And as the theories multiply, one cannot help but marvel at the strange machine of celebrity culture. Here is Blake, hailed by colleagues as a creative force, praised for her genius ideas on set, her involvement in every detail of production. Here is Justin, admired for his commitment to authenticity, his insistence on creating safe spaces, his dedication to blending intimacy with responsibility. And yet, all it takes is a few whispers, an Instagram comment, a supposed offhand remark, and suddenly their reputations are being rewritten in the court of public opinion. What was once a collaboration becomes a battlefield. What was once a field becomes a rumor mill, and what was once private becomes public spectacle. In Hollywood, there are scandals that erupt like fireworks, loud, dazzling, and gone in a flash. And then there are the ones that simmer, crawling under the skin of the industry like a slow fever, until suddenly everyone is talking about them, dissecting them, and spinning their own version of the truth. The saga of Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds, and the adaptation Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us didn't just fall into the second category. It practically redefined it. From the very beginning, the movie was supposed to be a win. Hoover's best-selling novel was catnip for studios, a modern romance drenched in emotional turmoil, tailor-made for viral hashtags, book club tiers, and of course, box office dollars. Attach Blake Lively, one of Hollywood's most glamorous and bankable faces, and Justin Baldoni, an actor-director with a passionate fan base and a reputation for heart-driven projects. And you had lightning in a bottle. Or at least, that's how it looked from the outside. But if Hollywood has taught us anything, it's that the prettier the picture, the messier the frame. The crack started small, so small, in fact, that only the most dedicated gossip watchers even notice them at first. A peculiar Instagram comment here, a slightly awkward red carpet moment there, whispers that the set was tense despite all the smiling cast photos. Nobody thought much of it in those early days. After all, productions get tense. Stars post cheeky things online all the time. And Hollywood thrives on a certain level of rumor. It keeps the machine oiled, the blogs fed, the podcasts humming. But then came the first holy smokes moment. The moment every conspiracy theory loves to circle back to: Justin Baldoni, drenched in sweat from a workout, posting a shirtless snap to Instagram nearly 100 weeks before the scandal would reach its boiling point. Nothing unusual for a leading man preparing for a physically demanding role. But then, in swoops Blake Lively with a comment that some fans took as cheeky banter, others saw as subtle flirtation, and scandal chasers branded Exhibit A in a case that would only grow more elaborate by the day. Amazing. Now try pregnant. On the surface, it was a harmless joke. Blake, after all, is a mother of 4, well known for her candid humor about pregnancy and postpartum life. But the internet thrives on context, and once the rumors started to swirl, people look back at that comment with fresh eyes. Was it just playful ribbing between co-stars? Or was it something more, a sly little nudge of flirtation from Blake to Justin, a gentle way of saying, "I like what I see"? The timing of that comment became a favorite talking point for theorists. If you line it up against the early stages of the film's pre-production, it suddenly looked a lot less like harmless fun and a lot more like foreshadowing. And if you dug into Blake's dating history, well, that's where the pattern hunters had a field day. Because here's the thing, Blake Lively, despite her Golden Girl image, has a track record when it comes to on-set romances. She dated Penn Badgley while filming Gossip Girl. She allegedly fell for Ryan Reynolds on the set of Green Lantern, while he was still married to Scarlett Johansson. There were even whispers of something emotionally complicated with Ben Affleck during The Town, while Blake was still with Penn and Affleck was still married to Jennifer Garner. 3 projects, 3 men, 3 blurred lines between real and real. So when fans saw her tossing playful comments Justin's way online, the logic, however twisted, felt irresistible. Why not make him number 4? That's where the first real split in the fandom emerged. On one side, you had the skeptics, those who insisted Blake is a consummate professional, the kind of actress who can turn on chemistry for the cameras without ever letting it seep into her personal life. On the other, you had the scandal hunters, eager to connect convinced that a slow burn crush was playing out in real time behind the scenes. Enter Justin Baldoni himself, the alleged object of Blake's attention. By all accounts, Justin was locked deep in his method acting zone, known for immersing himself in his roles. He reportedly kept a certain distance from his co-stars, even during downtime. Depending on who you ask, this made him either blissfully oblivious to or intentionally dismissive of any signals Blake might have been sending. If the rumors are true, it was a perfect recipe for awkwardness, a hyper-romantic storyline, postpartum hormones, and an actor who refused to blur the line between character and self. Of course, the skeptics roll their eyes at this theory. They say it paints Blake as unprofessional and Justin as naive, reducing both of them to stereotypes instead of recognizing complexity of real human behavior. But in gossip land, complexity is the enemy of virality, and nothing gets people talking like a love triangle, especially when one corner of that triangle includes Blake's real-life husband, Ryan Reynolds. Ah, Ryan. If there's one name that can make any Hollywood scandal twice as juicy, it's his. Not only is he a beloved A-list star with one of the sharpest public personas in the business, but he's also fiercely protective of his marriage. And if the rumor mill is to be believed, more than willing to play dirty when it comes to defending it. The conspiracy theorists argue that Ryan knew exactly how Blake operates when it comes to co-stars. They claim that when he realized Justin wasn't reciprocating, whether because he didn't feel the same way or because he didn't want to cross professional boundaries, Ryan swooped in to protect his wife's ego. That's when, according to this version of events, things allegedly escalated. One of the juiciest tidbits in circulation is that Justin supposedly fat-shamed Blake during a rehearsal for a lift scene, questioning whether her weight might make it unsafe. For most productions, that kind of conversation will be handled clinically with a stunt coordinator and safety experts. But in the gossip version, it turned into a personal slight, a blow to Blake's confidence and a red flag to Ryan. From there, the story only gets wilder. Theorists point to a Deadpool cameo that mocked a character resembling Justin, framing it as Ryan's petty way of taking a jab at his wife's co-star. Was it a coincidence? A stretch? Or a carefully orchestrated burn slipped into a billion-dollar franchise? The beauty of gossip is that you can never really prove or disprove it. Meanwhile, Colleen Hoover, the author whose book started all of this, remained conspicuously silent. Early on, she had enthusiastically promoted the adaptation. But as the controversies grew louder, her decision to step back became glaring. Was she quietly dissatisfied with how the production was going? Was she trying to avoid picking sides in a behind-the-scenes battle? Or was she simply letting the Hollywood machine do its thing? The absence of her voice only made fans speculate more. And speculation, as it turned out, was the lifeblood of the saga. By the time the penthouse confrontation rumors hit the internet, that infamous alleged moment when Ryan Reynolds supposedly scolded Justin in person, the story had already snowballed into something far bigger than a movie adaptation. It wasn't just about Blake and Justin anymore. It was about power dynamics in Hollywood, the blurred line between fiction and reality, the delicate dance of celebrity marriages, and the voracious appetite of fans who can turn a single Instagram comment into Exhibit A in a 200-page conspiracy theory thread. But before we get to the lawsuits, the alleged sabotage, and the popcorn-worthy twists, it's worth pausing on just how fast this storm grew. Because at its heart, this wasn't just about one actress and one actor. It was about an entire industry built on illusion, where the difference between a rom-com and a courtroom drama can be nothing more than a shift in perspective. In the early days, when fans were still dissecting the Instagram comment and arguing about method acting, nobody could have predicted just how messy it would all become. But with every new whisper, every rewatched interview, every zoomed-in behind-the-scenes photo, the narrative gained steam. And in Hollywood, once a story gains steam, it doesn't stop until it either crashes spectacularly or vanishes under the weight of NDAs and settlements. And this one, it was just getting started. The thing about Hollywood productions is that they're like pressure cookers. Put too many big personalities in one small space, crank up the heat of high expectations, and eventually something will explode. That's what many insiders say happened on the set of It Ends With Us. Though exactly what caused the explosion depends entirely on who you ask. Some blame Blake, others point at Justin. A few even point at Colleen Hoover herself, while plenty throw Ryan into the mix as the invisible puppet master pulling strings from the sidelines. At first, The report seemed harmless enough. Blake, always fashion savvy, supposedly clashed with the costume department, swapping outfits at will and ignoring wardrobe continuity. Some saw it as diva behavior. Others framed it as empowerment, an actress taking control of her character's look in a story that revolved around female agency. But in an industry where misplaced hemline can throw off an entire continuity sequence, these decisions raised eyebrows. Was Blake asserting herself creatively, or was she rewriting the rules of production to suit her whims? Justin, meanwhile, was deep in his process. He's long been open